Hello and welcome to this episode of the Veterans History Project Santa Clarita Valley Edition. The Veterans History Project is an initiative of the American Folklife Center at the Library of Congress. The Santa Clarita Valley Edition is spearheaded by College of the Canyons in association with SCV-TV and Vets Back to War Zone. The project relies on volunteers to collect the oral histories of U.S. military veterans and support personnel who served in active war zones. Today is February 15th, 2010. My name is Christine Bitter, and my guest today is Richard Jeffrey, a veteran of the Vietnam War from 1968 to 1969. Hi, thank you so much for being here, Richard.
Sure, my privilege.
Let's go ahead and start with where you were from. Where did you grow up, and take us up to the time that you entered service?
Well, I lived the majority of my life in the San Fernando Valley in the Canoga Park area, and before that in Reseda. And the call came out, everybody was getting draft notices, and I got mine with the United States Army, and I decided I wanted to go in the United States Marine Corps. And so I went to the recruiting depot, talked to the recruiter, joined the United States Marine Corps, and a short time after that I was taken to the induction center, and away we go.
Do you have any relatives that served in the military? Any grandfathers, fathers, uncles?
Both of my grandfathers served in World War I, and they were with the United States Army. My dad and my uncle, and my one uncle was with the United States Marine Corps, as was I, and my other uncle was with the United States Army also.
Why did you choose the Marines?
Well, because my dad was a Marine, and I just kind of leaned that way. And the Marines have a way of, well, for instance, their motto is you only go as fast as your slowest man. You never leave anybody behind. Okay. And I like that. And Sands of Iwo Jima and all those good movies kind of cemented that. So it was Marine Corps for me. I couldn't have done anything else.
Tell me about your training, and then take us up to your arrival in Vietnam.
Well, upon being inducted into the armed forces, I was, of course, going towards Marine boot camp, and there's two places that happens, either in South Carolina, or it goes into, or North Carolina, or in San Diego. So I got on a bus and went to the Marine Corps Recruit Depot in San Diego, California. And when you get there, it's get off the bus, get on the little yellow steps, and away you go. From that moment on, you're no longer a civilian, and everything in your life changes from that second on. So,
tell me about your training. What did you experience there?
Well, boot camp training is the same for all Marines, whether they are in a support position or they are infantry. We're all trained to be infantry from the very start, which has something to do with my experience later on. And so you go for, and I think we were 8 weeks or 10 weeks worth of boot camp. And you walk in, just a kid, and you walked out really in good physical shape. And I thought that I was pretty well prepared for taking orders and following those orders forth, you know, the way I should. And it was quite a life-changing episode.
Did you have a sense of purpose when you were done, and did you know you were going to go to Vietnam, and what were your feelings about that?
I did know I was going to go to Vietnam, and I had a sense of purpose because communism was not a choice for me or my family, and we didn't want that. We saw that they were making inroads into countries that were weaker, and they could overpower them. So when President Kennedy first, and then when President Johnson called for a draft and that we were going to go fight them, it was something that, you know, I live in this great country, and that was my duty to do so, and I told them that I was willing to do that, and you keep your word. That's
okay.
it.
What were your responsibilities there in Vietnam? Tell me about your first days there.
Well, originally my MOS was a 3051. That's what we refer to as a skivvy stacker. It's a supplyman. And our base was 1st Logistics Command, and we were responsible for supplying all of the infantry units around our sector, which was mainly the I-Corps area. And so I didn't want to be...
Explain the I-Corps area.
I-Corps, there's 3 areas in Vietnam. There was North, the Central, and South. I was in I-Corps. And so you would take and supply all the units out in the field, and you'd work in a warehouse or work in a battery or refrigerator or whatever you did, and you put it all together. That's not why I joined the Marine Corps. Of course, you do what you're told to do, but if I had an option, I wanted to be a grunt. I wanted to be a mud Marine like my dad and my uncle, and it wasn't something I could bear not doing that. So I shortly after being put into a warehouse, I decided that I was going to volunteer for the grunts, and an infantryman, in other words.
Okay.
And so I did do that, and I was assigned after serving some time on the regular fence as a guardsman, you know, around the base and at a ammo dump near us, which blew up, by the way. I then ended up
You weren't there, though.
No, actually, I just left. Anyway, so I then, a friend of mine by the name of Al Derrick, who later died in Vietnam, he suggested I talk to a gentleman by the name of Staff Sergeant Charles Papasan Hoffman, and I talked to him and told him I wanted to be in the grunts, and he asked me a few questions, and he says, "You're on." And from that day on, you walked patrols every day if you could, and you were an immediate reaction type of unit. And so our company, 1st Provisional Rifle Company, there were 3 different companies. Ours was 1st Provisional Company, and then we had 3 platoons. I was in 3rd Platoon, and you go out every day and you look for Charlie and you try to figure out, you know, what he's doing, what he's planning, where the mortar tubes are, if they're going to rocket you, what their next strategy and tactic is, and you try to counter that. That's our job.
Would you go out for a day at a time or for several days at a time? How was that organized?
Both. A normal day patrol can sometimes stretch into a night patrol, and then they have what they call ambushes. And so you would go out one direction, maybe peel off into 2 groups, rejoin, set up a perimeter, and then have an ambush, and you wait for Charlie to come tripping through your area at night. And because they used to say that the Marines owned the area during the daytime and Mr. Charles owned it at night. Well, we didn't want that to happen, so we stayed out there. We ended up full-time. Originally, we were doing supply duty half the time and then doing patrols the other half. And then we went to full-time patrolling, and we made a bigger difference. We never got another mortar attack.
Excellent. Tell me a little bit about your duties out there during the day. It's maybe your first taste of a conflict. Tell me something about
the first patrol I ever went on with was led by my squad leader, who was Gary Pathfinder Horoff, and I was at the back of the unit because I was a new guy, and there was a fellow back there by the name of Donta. It was his last name, and his first name was Buffy, as far as I knew. It's because he got gored in the fanny by a water buffalo, and
okay.
Rough. So I asked him, I said, you know, how do you know where you're going out here? He goes, the squad leader knows where we're going, we follow him.
Okay.
And then I asked him, but where are we? And he goes, do you see that red light? Yeah. And he goes, if things really get tough, he says, run towards the red light, that's the base.
Okay.
So then I knew I wanted to know more than that. And I made a point of going to intelligence and asking them for aerial reconnaissance photos, and I found out where everything was by reading those and then overlaying that onto a map so that I knew exactly where I was, and I started memorizing grid coordinates, certain points where I didn't have to look at a map to call in an airstrike or a mortar fire mission. I didn't need to look at anything. I knew what the grid coordinates already were.
Okay.
You know, it's all about survival.
Well, tell me about one of those survival moments for you.
Well, the one that's most obvious to anybody in my unit was we went out on a company side, or a platoon side, excuse me, a platoon size mission where we had the 1st squad, the 2nd squad, and the 3rd squad go out and meet at, you know, in different directions, and then meet in one place where we set in an ambush, looking for what we thought was enemy insurgents that were coming through into our area, and we were thinking that there could be even North Vietnamese coming through. And we sat in ambush all night long, And I was in a group that was really close to a place called Temple Island. And that night, the squad leader of that squad, who was called Pops Harrington, he told me, he said, keep your eye open. I thought I saw movement at the front of the island. And then I told him I'm seeing movement. We took a shot at that shadow, really, to no avail. Nothing came of it. We had no contact that night, other than that one. The next day, the sun came up. We all got ready to saddle up, put our gear together, and then walk back using the main dike, which proved to be a mistake, and heading back towards FLC, which was about 3 clicks away.
FLC is what now?
That's Force Logistics Command. That was our base.
Okay.
A click is 1,000 square meters, so 1,000 square yards. Okay. And so upon getting ready, my friend Al Derrick came up to me, and he was a funny, fun-loving guy, and he told me, Dick, he said, when you get back in today, you know people in supply? And I told him yes. And he goes, could you get me, another set of utilities? These are really getting bad. I'd hate to die in these things. And I said, I know what you mean. And so we kidded around, and he laughed and kind of waved at me, and he said, okay, saddle up, we're going in. Their squad went first, then the second squad, which was me, and then the third squad behind us. And as we were coming up onto the backside of a place called Temple Island and then coming off, there was a little gap in the rice paddy, and everybody made it over, jumped over that gap. Unfortunately, Al was left-handed, so he jumped and landed on a different foot.
Oh,
it hit a plunger to a Claymore mine and blew him 30 feet in the air and actually blew him in half. And so immediately training hits, and I started yelling out hasty defense, and I wasn't a squad leader, but I was the guy yelling, and then yelled for a friend of mine to make sure he was okay, and then I noticed that some of the guys, Fred Neely, Snake Neely, and Ski, who's another friend of mine, Kozdransky, and Fry Mueller, they were all jumping in the water. And they pulled Al out of the water. He was already deceased. And that was quite an impact. Quite an impact.
Did everybody else make it back that day?
Yeah, Mick Frymuller actually saw 3 VC, it ended up VC, or 4, running away, and he chased immediately after them, cornered them in a little village that was near there. In trying to fire his weapon, he had just been issued a new weapon and it jammed, which M16s oftentimes did. So he grabbed a .45 and went after him and captured him, brought him back, and they ended up being VC, and we think they were the ones that were responsible for at least watching the event, reporting it back, seeing how we reacted to it.
So do you think they saw you that night and set it up for the morning?
Well, a little quick story on that one. 2 weeks later, I was doing a patrol, and it was actually what they call a killer team. And a killer team is, depending upon how you set it up, is either 2 to 4 people, and normally 4, and you will do a small patrol in your area, and the other killer teams will go elsewhere. We stopped a gentleman walking. He had a hunchback. He was limping. He was an older guy. And I asked him for his ID. And when he went to hand his ID, he immediately tried to jerk it back. So I saw that he was handing me something he didn't mean to hand me. So I snatched his ID out of his hand. And I remember his name. And his name was Hobbien. And it was Hoabin is how you pronounce it. Hoabien. And so I called in his name. I told him to stand right there. One of the other men covered him, and I got on the radio, which are called PR-25s, and I called in and I said, I think I have a possible VC cadre leader here, just had a feeling. And they said, no, he's not on the list. I said, check it again, and check it again, and check it again, and 3-4 times, and they said, not there. So I handed him back his ID, and I said, I won't forget you, Bick, which means you understand.
Okay.
And he goes, "Bick." So he took off and he just walked around the corner, and immediately over the radio comes, Frito 3 Alpha, this is Frito 3 Alpha 6, be advised, VC cadre leader, get him, keep him, get him.
Okay.
He was gone.
Okay.
Jumped in a hole, wherever he went, he was gone.
Just disappeared.
Then we come to find out from other people and interviewing people that we were capturing and other insurgents in VC, that he was responsible for putting, that's the man we shot at that night. I had him in my hand.
Wow.
So it bothered me the entire time that I had the man who killed Alderic, and I didn't do anything about it. I should have kept him.
You tried. Sounds like you tried.
Well, I tried, but I should have taken him in and not just let him go like they told me to.
It sounds like there are a lot of interesting nicknames that you all had there. Was there one for you?
My nickname was Tarzan, and I got Tarzan because I can actually do a Tarzan yell.
Okay.
Which I'm not going to do here. And one day I asked, when I was squad leader, by the way, I took over squad leader over a short period of time.
How did people come to know that you could do a Tarzan yell?
Because I would do it in combat.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And I saw an island, and I asked some of the people with me, and Snake Neely told me, he goes, "We don't go on that island much," he said, "because the second squad lost half of the people on that island. And it's really tough to get on there, and it's, I said, well, that's what Charlie's looking for, so we're going to go there." So I took off in a jog going that direction. He goes, "Wait for me." And as I got closer to it, there was trees, like willows hanging over. And I jumped up, grabbed one of the trees, and swung up to the island, and did a Tarzan yell while I did it. And then Snake Neely was right behind me, and he grabbed a piece of wood that they were using to take water out of one paddy into another. It was a handle to a basket, basically. And he pole vaulted onto the island. And then once we got on the island, then we immediately smelled smoke. There was a what they call spider hole, and it was actually open, and you could see a spider hole is where the enemy hides underground.
Okay.
And then we were moving up on that spider hole, and out of another hole, sort of like a gopher goes in one hole and out another, he jumped out, started to run. I ran after him. Snake was coming with me. I wanted to capture him. He didn't have a weapon in his hand, so I figured if we can get him, we got intelligence. He jumped into the water. I dove in the water after him. There were trees with big roots on them, and I got caught in the roots. But the other guy's feet were right in front of me. I could just out of my reach. I finally forced myself to the top and got air, but the VC fella couldn't do it. He drowned. And so then I went and got him and took his body and tied him in what they call a fireman's carry over my shoulder and walked off the island with him.
Tell me a little bit about your time there. You stayed 6 months in...
No, you stay 13 months and 20 days normally.
Okay.
And I stayed a little bit less than that. And so I should have come home around November, I think I should have come home. But I ended up coming home in October. So a little bit of time off. And during that whole period of time, we ran patrols constantly. And I was squad leader for the second squad. And also at one time... So you had
been promoted at this time 3 times?
Well, I got what they call a meritorious combat promotion to Lance Corporal, and then a military combat promotion to Corporal. Okay. Because of, the stuff that was done out in the field.
Like what? Tell me about those things.
Well, whenever you run a squad, it's the biggest, in my opinion, the biggest honor I had in my life is running a squad of combat Marines. I just don't think there's anything better. And if you do the job right, then your CO and my commanding officer was Don W. Griffiths, Griffis, and he was, he paid attention, and my platoon sergeant paid attention, and then they would give you promotions, and I was asked to be a squad leader after my old squad leader, Gary Horoff, recommended me for the job, which was only a month after I joined, I think. And then I was squad leader the entire time I was there.
Were there any times where you felt your life was in immediate danger?
Every day.
Go ahead and go into a story such as that.
Well, when you go on patrol, I know it may look like you totally know what you're doing, but the truth is, you're really, some of it's luck. And you try to plan for the bad things that happen, but some of it is just luck. And you never know what tree they're in, what bush they're in, what hole they're in, if they're hiding behind a log, and you can't know. So you just have to be as prepared as you can. And then while I was squad leader, I also was a point man. And oftentimes many of us did that because it was just easier for us because we knew where we were going, and I was more familiar than some of the kids that had joined us.
Point man is the person at the very front.
Yeah, the point man is the #1 guy. He walks
squad.
Anywhere from 30 to 40 yards, usually ahead of everybody else, sometimes less, sometimes more. And your job is to find the booby traps. Your job is to look for the sniper. Actually, your job can be to just draw fire. And that's what we do. So,
tell me a little bit about your homecoming.
Well, for most of us in Vietnam, coming back was the most bittersweet pill to take. It was wonderful to be home. You got to see your parents and your girlfriend again, and your siblings, and it was great, and hamburgers again, and all the good things. But it was a bad time. And politically, people blamed us for the war. And instead of understanding that we're over there fighting for them, we're fighting to beat an enemy who really had our destruction in mind, they blamed us, and they took that out on us. It manifested itself by them, and you've heard all the stories, I'm sure a million times, about baby killer this, and you're an animal, and you don't care, and you kill innocent people, and nothing could be further from the truth. We cared about the villages. We would not fire in villages if we could, avoid it, and we tried to help the people out there, and that was our job. Marines just don't go out there and haphazardly kill people. I know we have a tough reputation, but if you saw us in action, you'd see. And we have a saying that says, "No better friend, no worst enemy," and that's the truth. But we don't want to be worst enemies to innocent people if we can.
Do you think it's a good idea for veterans to go back to Vietnam to visit?
Yeah, for me, I can't wait to do that. I really would like to go back there. I'd like to see it again now. And in fact, some of the guys from my old unit are planning to go back next year. And we want to put a plaque where Al Derrick died. And maybe 500 years from now, somebody will pull that plaque up and see a little etching of Alvin J. Derrick. And it's just to walk the same places we walked as boys. And to get that feeling again. And it kind of puts it all together in your head. And I'm sure some people might not be able to handle it, but the minute I mentioned that to my guys, they all wanted to do it and go back and get that feeling again. And sometimes it puts rest to those little demons that hide in your head. They consider me the historian for my unit because I have a tremendous memory of that. A lot of the guys suppress their memories. And going back there, it's nice to put it in sequence and order because it puts your life into a structured mode and it helps you. So I think that's a very good thing to do.
So what would you have young people know about service if they were considering going into the service? What would they learn? What would they benefit from doing so? What should they know?
Well, number one, I think you have to understand, and I know it's a cliche at this point, but freedom is not free. And the person who gives these freedoms to you and maintains those freedoms for you are the people who are in the armed forces that are fighting for that freedom every day. Many people don't understand what it is to have to actually fight for your freedom and fight for your life. And I think people who are thinking about going into the military have to understand it's not a game. You take orders. You have to know that it's a 100% commitment, and that commitment possibly may mean you giving your life. And it definitely means that you're responsible for the guy next to you. So you're a band of brothers, as they like to say.
Well, thank you so much, Richard, for being here with us today. And thank you for watching. If you'd like to see more Santa Clarita episodes of the Veterans History Project, log on to sevtv.com. I'm Christine Bitter, and we'll see you next time.